Now let's cursor back up to the keyboard. Now here is a kind of an interesting section. Many times when we look at the keyboards, we have the different settings here. So we have the keyboard range lower. You'll see me adjusting lower. And we have keyboard range upper. Range upper. Now these other ones are fade lower and fade upper. Now here's what this means. Typically when we adjust the range, when we get to that note, and I set this one to C1, once I go to C1 and I go one note lower than C1, I don't hear that tone at all. It is cut off. But if I turn on the fade level, I'll still hear that note going past, but it'll get fainter and fainter. So I can adjust the fade. So if I'm doing any kind of blending of different tones, different layers or different splits, more likely, I can go ahead and instead of having the sound just cut off, I can have it fade into the other sound. And so that could be a very nice transition when we're putting multiple sounds together. So that's the fade for the lower, and here's the fade for the upper. So we can have very nice tones layered together, but then fading into one another, just not so harsh. This is a fun one to play with. So go ahead and experiment with that one. Maybe start off by having them at 0 here, so you can hear just the good old-fashioned cutoff of that particular tone, but then experiment with the fade. Experiment with that, and you can adjust those levels right there. Next tab is pitch. This is a very common one we like to use. If we go down to the pitch tab, we see we can adjust, of course, the octaves, and we can adjust our octaves +3 or -3 octaves right there. Very easy. Also, chorus tuning. So chorus tuning is by step. So right now the Integra is in its natural key of C. So now C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, etc. If we go the other way, we get, instead of C, we get B, B flat, A flat. So this is a cool thing. We could go ahead and have different MIDI parts in different keys for whatever reason. You want to be crazy like that, that's all good. Or you wanted to maybe add a little bit of character or a different kind of sound, maybe I'll go ahead and put that chorus tuning on a different channel, and maybe I layer them together, have this one on its C tuning, and I might put this one up a fourth to maybe to like F. So we go C, C sharp, D, E, F. So now when I play those layered sounds together, I get a nice fourth. Or if I want to, 5, 6, that would be a fifth, and I can kind of have some fun with that. So experiment with this. You never know what kind of a cool sound you're going to come up with by adjusting the chorus tuning. Now another thing is the fine tuning. Maybe I have both of these in C, but I want to have just a little bit of out of tune right there, just a fine tuning. Nothing super bad, but sometimes it makes the sound move. It gives it a cool kind of quality to it. So if I have two sounds layered, that can give it a little bit of depth in there, because a lot of times in the real world, not everybody is perfectly in tune, and sometimes it gives it a little bit of character. So that can be kind of nice to play with. Now remember, if you go too much, you're going to really hear it, but experiment. Have some fun with that. Now let's go over to the next area. Now each tone, be it acoustic, supernatural acoustic synth or PCM synth, has their own specific pitch bend range. For a trumpet on the supernatural, it might be different than a synth in the PCM or a piano, okay? Maybe the piano has none. So if we want, we can go ahead and adjust how much of the bend range. We can leave it to that particular tone and what was programmed on it originally, or we can go in and adjust it to whatever we want. Typically, personally, I like to use the 2, so +2, -2 for mine, and that's fine. But go ahead and experiment with it, you know. Do a whole octave if you want, you know, right there. You can do that, and this goes, you can adjust it anywhere from 1 step up to 24 steps, which would be 2 octaves. That could be a lot of fun.